Welcome back to the CUSA Showcase. Well, a big week in conference play, but let's start with our Thursday nighter, ECU and UCF. The Pirates, they sit at 2-0 in conference play, while the Knights, this is their conference opener. First of all, let's talk quarterbacks.
Okay, because there's two quarterbacks in this game going against two great defenses. Neither one can afford to make a mistake. Obviously, Shane Carden last week for East Carolina threw 3 interceptions, came back, ran for a couple, threw for a touchdown, kind of overcame that. He can't do that against a very, very good UCF defense. If he does, they have no chance of winning. Blake Bortles, the quarterback for UCF, I tell you, he has had a great year, a quiet year. People don't even mention his name when you talk about the top quarterbacks in the conference. Watching this guy last week against Missouri, he's got great poise back there, and he's got the added incentive. He's got a good running back with Storm Johnson behind him. Plus, you've got last year's quarterback, Jeff Godfrey, who splits out. You've got Calabrese, who was a quarterback a few years ago. You can play 3 quarterbacks. They run a number of different formations. It's going to be a great defensive struggle, but who will make the less mistakes in the quarterbacks, Bortles or Carden? That will determine the winner of this game.
And a great one to have on Thursday
night.
night.
Absolutely. And I think George O'Leary had a great line. He said, I don't mind a short week if we win. They didn't. It's going to be a tough week, I think, obviously for UCF.
Well, let's move on to another conference matchup. We have Marshall facing Tulsa. You have your league-leading offense facing your league-leading defense. However, Tulsa, they can put some points up as well. Is this one going to be a shootout?
I think so. I think if you're Tulsa, you got to be a little concerned of Cody Green. He's still throwing picks. He can't do that. He didn't do that when he played at Nebraska. He's got to have almost a perfect game. They're getting a lot of touchdowns from Alex Singleton, but he's the guy that lets everybody else do the work. They put Singleton in when it's first and goal from the 5, and he punches it in. You've got to have the complete running game. I think Trey Watts has got to stand up really big in this football game in order for Tulsa to put points on the board against a good Marshall team. Is it going to be a defensive struggle? That's one of those games I don't know, because I still haven't seen Tulsa's offense kick it in gear as much as I thought, and Marshall is a very good football team, as they've proven already this year.
Now, we talked about one of the teams, this one, the toughest non-conference schedule. We all know we're talking about the Miners. They get to head back home. They're hosting SMU. This one being headlined by some ground game. Zach Line, Nathan Jeffries, expecting a big ground attack.
I think for both teams, this is a must-win situation. SMU has not kicked it in gear offensively. I still think they're making bad decisions from the quarterback position. They've got some talented receivers, but throwing the long ball has been a problem, and it was a problem actually last season. They have to establish the running game, but people now are keying on Zach Line. Jeffrey's got to have a big game. Coming off 130-plus yards this past week, he's got to run the football, but I think if you're looking for a must-win situation, one of those games that if you win, it catapults you all of a sudden into the conference picture. It's a must-win, I think, especially for SMU in this game, because they had a chance to beat Tulsa or TCU last week and they didn't. It's going to be a lot of pressure on both teams this week.
Absolutely. Now, kind of continuing with that must-win, Southern Miss. Still looking for that first win of the season. Now they're hosting Boise State. Obviously, this is not the Bronco team of old. However, still a worthy opponent. Let's talk about some of the things that they need to do to get that first win.
They got to make big plays. I think, obviously, Boise State is not the offensive team they were last year. They lost this quarterback that was pretty good. I think at Southern Miss, you've got to be able to come up with some type of big play, be it an interception, be it a special teams play, a long pass, something that knocks Boise State back. But this is a well-coached team, Boise State. The Broncos, they don't seem to get rattled over anything. Somehow Southern Miss has got to go get those hidden yardage plays, especially on special teams, and break some big play. If they do, they may have a chance to win this football game, but it's going to be difficult. Back-to-back tough teams. That's hard to do at any level. I don't care where you are.
Absolutely. Now, Rice and Memphis, the big question mark on this one is Taylor McCarg going to be healthy this week? Now, we know that Memphis has made some big plays on defense and special teams. So you kind of look at all those intangibles. Who has the edge this week?
Boy, I tell you what, I like the way Memphis is playing. They're playing awfully hard right now, and you've seen them kicking up a notch defensively. If Taylor McCarg does not play in this football game, obviously Rice is behind the 8 ball. The key is, can Rice make the plays again against a very good defense? And that remains to be seen. But, you know, it's football, and you don't know who's going to do it, who's going to play what. But I think if Taylor McCarg plays, obviously they have a better chance of winning this football team.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of those Owls, place kicker Chris Boswell having a banner year, a big game-winning kick against Kansas earlier this year. But it is a team sport.
Let me tell you about Chris Boswell. I got to know him last year. He's out of Keller, Texas, just outside of Dallas and Fort Worth area. And this is a young man that works at his game. He had Chris Martens, who was the punter last year for Rice, now waiting to go in the National Football League. These two guys got together, and he worked at his game. Boswell is an outstanding kicker. Nothing bothers this young man. He's a great young man, and I think he can be a difference maker in any game, and I think they're very glad to have him.